Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, I'm so happy to be talking to Chelsea Fretwell from Pioneers. Hi,
Hi.
Chelsea. I
Hey.
was talking to Chelsea a little bit about what she does there. She's the global project coordinator, and she started talking so much that I was like, you need to tell us what you do because it's kind of amazing. Chelsea, tell us a little bit about what you do there at Pioneers.
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'm the global project coordinator and I'm basically the grant writer slash copywriter. So, I'm writing a lot of proposals to foundations, direct mail letters, to donors in our donor base, writing follow-up reports. But I would say my favorite part of my job is I get to talk to missionaries who are on the field and I get to hear about all the great stuff that they're doing with their projects. I get to hear stories firsthand of how God is moving among unreached people groups. And I normally get those stories so I know what to write to the foundations and to our donors. So yeah, that's just kind of what my job is in a nutshell.
But also making it a great, you're a great person to sit here and tell us stories as well. So thank you for joining us to tell us a
Thanks.
little bit more about Pioneers. And with that, will you tell us a little bit more about Pioneers?
Yeah, so we're a missions agency that partners with churches around the world to send missionaries to unreached people groups so they can start church plants. And an unreached people group is a group of people who don't have the access or resources that they need to hear the gospel, share within their community, and to lead a church within their community. And if there are Christians in among these groups, it's normally very few. It's generally less than 2% of the population. So our vision at Pioneers is for every people group to have an opportunity to hear the gospel and lead a church in their own community. And Pioneers, we do have a lot of core values, but I think the two that we really focus on is innovation and flexibility, because we always are trying to find, just the newest and creative and most creative ways to reach people in some of the hardest places.
And boy, isn't God creative?
Yes, definitely.
Why do you do what you do at Pioneers?
Yeah, so two thoughts kind of come to my mind when you ask that question. And I would say the first one is Revelation 7:9. And Revelation 7:9 says that all nations, tribes, and tongues are going to sit around the throne of God. And I think this Bible verse really empowers us because not every nation, tribe, or tongue has heard the gospel yet. And that's something that we want to do. So I would say Revelation 7:9, and then even just how our organization got started in the first place. And to just give you a little more context about that, our organization was founded by Ted and Peggy Fletcher in 1979. And they had a heart for a long time to go overseas and to go to the unreached, but they just weren't sure when. And Ted was a very successful businessman. He even worked on Wall Street for 10 years. And it was that point in his life where he kind of got to a point where he thought to himself, who cares who reads the Wall Street Journal when there are so many people around the world who have never heard the gospel? And so after 10 years, Ted had left Wall Street so he could go overseas and pursue missions. And at that time, you could only go be a missionary through different mission boards. And so Ted was applying to all these mission boards and they were all declining him. They were just telling him things like, he was too old, he had too many kids, or he just didn't have the right biblical education. And so for that reason, Ted actually just went and made his own missions agency, which is now Pioneers. And so in 1979, they sent their first missionaries to Nigeria. And, since then, I think even just how Ted and Peggy created Pioneers, that really has created the foundation and the culture of Pioneers, because we do believe that if you have a calling to go, we want to do anything that we can to equip you and to send you where you feel like God's calling you to be.
That's great. How does Pioneers approach teaching children or teaching unreached people about Jesus? Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
I mean, children too, right?
Yes, children are included, all people groups. Yeah, and I love this question because like I said, as the global project coordinator, I hear a lot of stories on the field about the work that God is doing among unreached people groups. And honestly, I could sit here for probably a good hour or two and just monologue about all of the really cool things we have going on. But to refrain myself from doing that, I would just share a few thoughts that came to my mind. And I'll say the first thought is I do want to emphasize that Pioneers, we are an international movement. And we want to be from all nations to all nations. So outside of the US, we actually have 15 other international bases in other countries where we are recruiting and sending missionaries. And I think that's definitely impacting unreached people groups because we're reaching more groups. And there are just some groups that are so hard to reach where it would be easier for someone from being sent from another country. It would be easier for them to reach that people group compared to someone coming from the US. So us being an international movement, and then if you look at the US space specifically, again, we have a lot of great projects going on, but I think the two areas where we're seeing a lot of impact is digital outreach and disciple making training. And so with digital outreach, I know that's kind of a new ministry that's trending a little bit. And I know depending on how tech savvy you are, sometimes it can sound a little overwhelming or it can sound kind of complicated, but digital outreach really has been a powerful tool where we've been able to reach people in the hardest places. And just kind of how our digital outreach ministry works is we're on different platforms like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, things like that. And so when we connect with people from different parts of the world, they'll ask us questions, we'll answer questions, we'll build a relationship with them. And then if they decide to come to faith, we can actually connect those people with missionaries and Christians on the ground, or a local church, if there is one, on the ground. So they can have that face-to-face relationship and discipleship. But with this process, it does vary based on where people groups are located. There are some places where a person might come to faith, but their area is so unreached that there just aren't any local Christians to connect them with. Or there are some places where it's just so dangerous, where they aren't able to meet with anyone face to face. And just a quick example of that, we have one part of our ministry called Arab World Media. And actually, we have seen people from ISIS and Al-Qaeda connect with us and come to faith over the past couple of years. And those have been really powerful stories. But again, someone from ISIS or Al-Qaeda coming to faith, that's really dangerous for them to meet with someone face to face. So when people are in that situation, they can actually download a Bible and they can do online discipleship with us. So digital outreach has been another great way that we've been seeing, unreached people groups being impacted. And when you combine digital outreach with disciple making training together, those can create really powerful church plants. Another example is in West Africa, we have some really strong disciple making trainings where we're teaching new believers how to share the gospel and how to start their own Bible studies. And from that, we've actually seen churches in West Africa multiply up to 7 times. So again, it's hard to give a short, concise answer because we have so many different stories and ways that God has been moving among unreached people groups, but those are just the two that come to mind and the two that I've seen a lot this past year or so.
Well, I think they both align really nicely with your creativity and innovation goals or visions. So thank you for sharing those stories, and I can't wait to hear more. Let's talk specifically about how a person or family who is participating in the Sunlight Readathon can support your mission, or how they will support your mission in participating.
Yeah, I really appreciate you asking that question. And, before I answer, I do just want to say thank you. Thank you, and to thank Sunlight for letting us participate. On our end, it has been a really fun process, just trying to think of ways to get people excited about reading, getting people excited about missions. So just thank you for this opportunity. And for people who are reading, I do just want you to know, you can make a difference among unreached people groups, and partnering with us is going to impact those people. I mentioned earlier that people can download a Bible and do online discipleship. And right now it only costs $6 for someone to download a Bible. And then it only costs $90 to give more specialized training and discipleship to missionaries. So every dollar that is raised, during this readathon is going to go to those parts of ministry. And we're just really excited about it, and it's like I said before, digital outreach, it really has allowed us to connect with people that we thought would be impossible to connect with. And even with disciple making training, we want people to know the Lord, we want people to come to faith, but we also want to help them grow in their faith. And we do want to show them how they can share in their cultural context and how they can start Bible studies and help bring other people to faith. So we're just really excited for readers to be a part of that. And I will say the last thing of how, partnering with us can impact ministry. Sunlight is going to match every dollar given to pioneers. So for every dollar that's raised, Sunlight will give $1. So if someone raises $5, well, then Sunlight's going to give $5, and now that's $10. And so all that extra Sunlight or all that extra funding from Sunlight is going to go to the training and recruitment of missionaries from the U.S. base and bases around the world.
Well, we certainly appreciate pioneers joining us in the Sunlight Readathon, so thank you for being a part of it. So tell us a little bit about how fundraising support can impact the lives of people who are receiving the support.
Yeah, so I think to answer this question, I'll just share a story. And this is one of my favorite stories that I've heard this past year or so. So this story is about a man named Kofi, and he lives in West Africa. And like many people in West Africa, Kofi never had a chance to go to school. And just kind of a side note on that, the illiteracy rate in West Africa is actually very high. Many people can't read there. And so for that reason, we actually have missionaries who are trained in orality, which is just them learning how to share, conduct Bible studies, help and disciple people through oral storytelling and orality. So with that training, Kofi actually met a pioneers missionary who was doing an orality Bible study, and he started going to the Bible study, and he eventually came to faith. And after Kofi came to faith, he eventually started 4 Bible studies of his own, and he led a 20-member church. So after some time, Kofi actually had to move villages, and he had a corn mill business. So he went to this new village, and he started playing audio tracks in his corn mill shop. And he met a man there named Udo. Now, Udo was, he wasn't a believer, and he was one of those people where he relied on a lot of idols for wealth and success. And if you can just kind of picture for a second, Old Testament, where people had a lot of those tangible idols that they were worshiping, that's where Udo was in his journey. So Udo, heard the gospel, met with Kofi, eventually came to faith, and he just threw out all of his idols. And after Udo came to faith, he was discipled by Kofi, and eventually Udo started 2 of his own Bible studies. And so I just really love this story, and I love sharing this story because when we say disciple making training and church planning movements, like that just gives a clear picture of what that means. Like it's sharing the gospel with someone, discipling them so they can disciple other people. And when you get enough Bible studies and people discipling each other together, that is how, church planning movements start. And so again, if people partner with us during this readathon, it does give more people like Kofi and Udo an opportunity to come to faith and start those church planning movements in their communities.
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in partnering with pioneers, this is a story that shows you the direct impact. How can families beyond the Sunlight Readathon support pioneers or throughout the year?
Yeah, so, I always say we like to encourage people to just prayerfully think about if Pioneers is an organization that you want to partner with. And if it is an organization you want to partner with, a need that we do have is just to have monthly supporters. And I do want to just reassure everyone, $1 goes a long way at Pioneers. Just $30 a month, that can give over 179,000 people access to hearing the gospel and access to the scriptures for the first time. And so if you are thinking about, or if you are interested in partnering with us in that, you can actually go to pioneers.org/digital-outreach. And I'll say that again, pioneers.org/digital-outreach. And so partnering with us in that ministry, that really does give more people around the world an opportunity to hear the scriptures for the first time. It gives our missionaries a greater opportunity to follow up with people. And again, it gives unreached people groups a greater opportunity to start church planning movements in their communities around the world.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Chelsea, for joining us and talking about Pioneers. I want to say too that Pioneers is offering a free download. What is the book? Do you remember the book name? I can't.
Yes. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Yes, the book is Treachery on the Twisted River, and it's basically about how a group of headhunters and cannibals come to know Jesus. So if that sounds like a good adventure story you'd be interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is a free download. You can use it towards your mission, your Read for Missions hours. So if you'd like to partner with pioneers and get that free download, you can do that. Learn more about the Sunlight Readathon at sunlight.com/read dash a dash thon. And thank you
Mhm.
so much, Chelsea, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you again for having us. It was a lot of fun.
Bye, guys.
Bye.